My name is Natalie Harper. I'm 31 years old. And I'm writing this on Christmas night from my apartment, wearing sweatpants that smell faintly like bourbon, instead of sitting at my boyfriend's parents' dining table pretending to enjoy pie and an uncle's off-key accordion performance. I should be there right now. Instead, I'm here, staring at my phone, deleting 5 years of relationship status updates one by one, and wondering how it took me so long to stop being the villain in a story I never wrote. Let me rewind. I'd been with Evan Miller for 5 years. We met through mutual friends at a summer barbecue, one of those easy, sunburned afternoons where nothing feels serious until suddenly everything is. We hit it off fast, moved in together after 18 months, split rent, split groceries, shared toothbrush chargers and inside jokes. Normal, comfortable, real. Evan's family, however, was anything but small. I'm talking 4 aunts, 3 uncles, cousins so numerous I gave up learning names, and grandparents who still ran the entire operation from matching recliners like benevolent dictators. Every holiday, every birthday, every random Sunday that someone decided felt festive, I showed up every time. I brought wine, helped set up folding tables, listened to the same story about his cousin's high school football glory days at least a dozen times. I put in the work. I really did. And every single gathering came with the same question. So, one of his aunts would say, blocking me in the kitchen while I refilled my drink, when are you going to make an honest man out of him? They laughed like it was a joke. It never felt like one. You know he's not getting any younger, another would add. What are you waiting for? Don't you love him? The pressure was relentless. I always smiled, deflected, said something safe like, when the time is right, or we're taking things slow. What I never said, what I was explicitly asked not to say, was the truth. I had proposed to Evan 3 times. The first time was 2 years into our relationship. I saved for months, bought a ring, planned a dinner at his favorite restaurant. I got down on one knee, hands shaking. He cried, said he loved me, said he just wasn't ready. I need more time to figure out what I want, he said, voice breaking. I was devastated, but I understood. We were still young. I could wait. The second time was a year later, on his birthday. I upgraded the ring, rented a cabin, candles, music, the whole cinematic setup. I love you so much, he said, tears in his eyes again, but I don't think we're there yet. More promises, more soon. The third time was 8 months ago. No grand gesture, just us on the couch, a quiet night. I want to spend my life with you, I said. Will you marry me? He looked at me with genuine sadness. I can't, not yet. Please don't give up on us. 3 proposals, 3 rejections. And every holiday, his family treated me like I was afraid of commitment. He asked me not to tell anyone. It's embarrassing, he said. They'll make it weird. Just let me handle it. So I stayed quiet, like an idiot. Fast forward to Christmas Eve. 23 people crammed into a house built for 12. His grandmother holding court. His mother stress cooking. His father pretending none of it was happening. I was in the kitchen getting a drink when 3 aunts surrounded me. Literally blocked the doorway. We need to talk, the oldest said, arms crossed. Judge Judy energy. 5 years, the middle one added. When are you going to propose? What's wrong with you? The youngest asked. Something snapped. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was 5 years of being painted as the problem. That's a great question, I said calmly. I told them everything. 3 proposals, 3 no's. The request to stay silent. The kitchen went dead quiet. Evan appeared in the doorway, panic written all over his face. 3 times, his aunt asked him. He tried to deny it. I mentioned receipts, texts. His mother pushed forward. What is happening right now? I think we're done, I said. I grabbed my coat. Evan followed me, sobbing. You can't do this. Not here. Why not? I asked. You let them humiliate me for years. I was going to say yes, he cried, at New Year's. You've been planning to say yes for 3 years, I said. At some point, intentions stopped mattering. I walked out. 5 years. 3 proposals. 1 very public ending. Merry Christmas to me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch until the sky started to lighten, phone face down on the coffee table like it might bite me if I touched it. When I finally flipped it over, there were 32 messages waiting. Most from Evan, a few from his mother, 1 from his father. That one surprised me. It was short, careful, almost adult. I'm sorry things went the way they did. I understand why you're upset. I hope you're okay. I didn't reply. Evan's messages came in waves. Anger, heartbreak, bargaining, love, blame, then back to love again. I can't believe you did that to me. You humiliated me in front of my entire family. I was going to say yes. You ruined everything. Please call me. I love you. This can't be over. You're being so unfair. I read them all. I answered none. I needed space to think. Real space, not the kind where you're technically alone, but still orbiting someone else's emotions. But peace didn't last long. His mother started a group text. Not just the two of us. Oh no. She added a few aunts, one uncle, and, because apparently nothing says healthy conflict resolution like spectators, two cousins. I think we all need to have a calm, adult conversation about what happened, she wrote. Whatever issues you two had should have been handled privately, not at a family gathering. My jaw clenched. Privately. For 5 years, their family had interrogated me publicly about my commitment. For 5 years, I'd swallowed it. I typed back carefully. With respect, your family has been questioning my commitment in public for 5 years. I handled it privately until I couldn't anymore. The oldest aunt replied almost immediately. We were just looking out for him. We didn't know. You didn't know because Evan asked me to lie for him, I wrote. I'm not the bad guy here. Then came the word that finally made me laugh. Actually laugh out loud in my empty apartment. Apologize. His mother wrote it twice. The least you could do is apologize. I stared at the screen. Apologize for telling the truth. I left the group chat, blocked her number. My hands were shaking, but my chest felt lighter. That's when the flying monkeys arrived. His best friend texted first. I don't know what happened, but he's a mess. Can you please just talk to him? He really loves you. Then a cousin I'd always liked. Hey, I get why you're upset, but he's spiraling. He's barely eating. Maybe consider reaching out? Then his brother. You really did him dirty. He told me his side. You could have handled this way better. That one got a response. What's his side exactly? I asked. The reply came after a pause. That you ambushed him in front of everyone because he wanted to wait for the right moment. That you pressured him for years and made him feel trapped. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Pressured him? I typed. I proposed. He said no, 3 times. I accepted it every time and stayed. How is that pressure? That's not what he's saying. I have texts, receipts. Ask him to show you the messages from after each proposal, the ones where he begged me not to give up on him. No response. I wasn't surprised. Day 3 is when he showed up, unannounced, at my apartment. I wasn't going to answer, but the knocking got louder. Then desperate. I have neighbors. I didn't want this to become another scene. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. What do you want, Evan? He looked terrible. Red eyes, hair unwashed, wearing the same sweater from Christmas. Can I please come in? He asked. I need to talk to you. We can talk like this. This is so cold, he said. After 5 years, you won't even let me in? You said no, I replied, 3 times. I don't owe you entry to my apartment. He started crying. I was scared, he said. My parents' marriage is a disaster. You know that. I didn't want us to become them. Then why didn't you tell me that? I asked quietly. Why let me keep proposing? Because I didn't want to lose you, he admitted. I thought eventually I'd be ready. I stared at him. So you wanted me to keep asking until you felt like saying yes? He nodded. The logic was horrifying. You can't just end this, he whispered. We have a life together. Had, I corrected. Then he tried something else. What about the apartment? Ah, there it was. I'll buy out my portion of the lease, I said. You can find a roommate. I can't afford this place alone. That sounds like a you problem. You're being cruel, he whispered. The woman you fell in love with proposed 3 times, I said. Maybe you never really knew her. He left. I felt like garbage, and somehow free. I didn't feel victorious after he left. That surprised me. I'd imagined, fantasized even, that the moment I finally stood my ground would come with clarity, relief, maybe even satisfaction. Instead, I sat on the floor with my back against the door, knees pulled to my chest, and cried until my throat burned. Not because I missed him, because I finally understood how much of myself I'd given away trying to be patient. The next few days blurred together in a haze of logistics and emotional aftershocks. Evan stopped texting for about 48 hours. Long enough for me to think maybe he'd accepted it, that maybe this was going to be one of those rare, clean breakups. I should have known better. He started again with voice notes this time, softer, calmer, like he'd rehearsed restraint. I've been thinking, one message began. I get why you're upset, I really do. But don't you think ending everything like this is extreme? Extreme. 5 years of maybe, 3 rejections, public humiliation on repeat. That was extreme? I didn't reply. Then came the apologies that weren't apologies. I'm sorry you feel hurt. I'm sorry my family made things uncomfortable. I'm sorry this got out of control. Never once. I'm sorry I kept you waiting. Never once. I'm sorry I let you take the blame. The lease became the next battlefield. We'd renewed it in September, 8 months left. At the time, it felt responsible, grown up, proof we were stable. Now it felt like a trap. I emailed the landlord myself, laying everything out calmly, explained the breakup, asked about options. Transfer, buyout, surrender, whatever could be done. He responded the next day, surprisingly reasonable. There were options. They weren't painless, but they existed. I forwarded the email to Evan with a simple note. These are the options. Let me know which one you're willing to sign. Silence. 2 days later, he replied with one line. If you want out so badly, you figure it out. I'm not making this easy for you. There it was. Not heartbreak, not confusion, control. He wanted me stuck, financially, emotionally, practically, until I either softened or gave up. So I did the math. Breaking my portion of the lease would cost about $6,400. It would wipe out a chunk of my savings. Hurt, sting, set me back months. But it was finite. Staying? That cost had no ceiling. I emailed the landlord again, asked what paperwork was required for my surrender of tenancy. Turns out Evan's signature wasn't strictly necessary. When Evan found out, he lost it. He showed up at my office, during work hours. Security called me down after a woman in the lobby started yelling my name like she was auditioning for a courtroom drama. By the time I reached the front desk, he was crying, shouting, telling anyone who would listen that I was abandoning him, destroying his life, throwing away 5 years over nothing. I didn't say a word. Security escorted him out. My boss called me into her office afterward. Everything okay at home? She asked gently. I'm ending a long-term relationship, I said. He's not handling it well. She nodded. If this becomes a pattern, let HR know. Great. Now my job was brushing up against his inability to respect boundaries. That night, Evan emailed me a spreadsheet. I wish I were joking. An itemized list of everything he believed I owed him. Furniture, kitchenware, gifts his parents had given us, a TV I bought that he'd emotionally contributed to by watching it with me. Total $3,200. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied with one sentence. I'll take the couch and the TV since I paid for both. You can keep everything else. We're even. His response came fast. This is so typical. You were always cheap. Cheap. I didn't answer. The woman who bought 3 engagement rings, who upgraded the second one, who paid 60% of the rent because he made less. Cheap. That was when something finally shifted. All the confusion drained out. This wasn't grief. This was entitlement, colliding with the reality that I was no longer available to absorb it. I packed a suitcase that night. Just essentials. Clothes, documents, a few things that actually felt like mine. Crash landed in a friend's spare room. Left the furniture. Left the memories. Left the version of myself who thought love meant endurance. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. The calm didn't last. It never does when someone realizes they're actually losing control. I'd been staying at my friend Maya's place for 3 nights when my phone buzzed. With an email notification from Evan. Not a text, not a call, an email. That alone told me everything I needed to know. It was long, carefully structured, paragraphs spaced just enough to feel deliberate. He accused me of being financially aggressive, of abandoning shared responsibilities, of making unilateral decisions that affected both our lives. Not one sentence acknowledged why we were here. Not one. I didn't respond. Instead, I finalized the paperwork with the landlord, paid my portion, signed the surrender, took the hit. $6,417.82. I stared at the confirmation receipt for a long time before closing my laptop. Painful, yes, but clean. Evan found out 2 days later. He called. I didn't answer. He texted. I didn't reply. Then he showed up at my office again. This time he didn't even make it inside. Building security recognized his car from the last incident, flagged his plates, stopped him at the parking garage entrance. I watched from the 3rd-floor window as he argued with a guard, hands flying, face red with rage and panic. I didn't feel scared. I felt done. HR called me in that afternoon. We're documenting this, they said gently, just in case. I nodded, signed the report, thanked them. Documentation. Boundaries. Paper trails. The adult things I'd been doing for years, just finally for myself. That night, Evan sent one final barrage of messages. You're ruining me. My family thinks I'm a liar. My friends don't know what to believe. You turned everyone against me. You could have handled this quietly. Quietly. Like I had for 5 years. I replied once. I proposed 3 times. You said no 3 times. I stayed quiet to protect you. When your family demanded to know why I wouldn't commit, I told the truth. Everything happening now is a consequence of your choices, not mine. Please don't contact me again. Then I blocked him. Everywhere. Email, phone, socials, apps I forgot we even shared. Silence fell like a held breath finally released. A week passed. Then 2. The messages stopped. The pressure from his family fizzled out after one unexpected intervention. His grandmother. Apparently, she'd heard the full story, receipts, timelines, all of it. According to a cousin who still talked to Maya, she'd said something simple and devastating at Sunday dinner. She proposed 3 times. He said no 3 times. That's not her fault. That's his. Stop embarrassing yourselves. After that, radio silence. No more group texts. No more guilt tripping. No more moral lectures about forgiveness and grace. People don't like truths they can't argue with. The last thing I heard from Evan came indirectly. A friend of his reached out, not to mediate, not to defend, but to inform. He started therapy, she wrote. He knows he messed up. He just wants to apologize in person, for closure. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted it. The apology, the acknowledgement, the words I'd waited years to hear. But another part of me, quieter, steadier, knew better. Closure isn't something someone else hands you once they're ready. I already had mine. I typed back one sentence. I wish him well, but I don't need his apology to move forward. She didn't reply. And for the first time since Christmas, my life felt mine again. The strange thing about fallout is that it doesn't explode all at once. It echoes. For a while, it felt like every day brought a new ripple from a stone I'd already thrown and walked away from. The apartment situation dragged on longer than it should have. Even after I surrendered my portion of the lease, Evan refused to cooperate with the landlord on his end. Missed emails, delayed signatures, passive resistance disguised as confusion. Eventually, the landlord lost patience. He sent us both a final notice. Resolve this by Friday, or eviction proceedings will begin against both tenants. Eviction, the nuclear option. It would wreck both our rental histories, mine included, even though I hadn't lived there in weeks. I forwarded the email to Evan without commentary. An hour later, he replied. 3 pages. A single-spaced email that read like a manifesto. He accused me of ruining his life, of stealing his future, of proving he'd been right not to marry someone so cold, so vindictive, so transactional. 3 pages of rage and grief. 0 accountability. But he signed the paperwork. The landlord confirmed it the next morning. Lease resolved. His responsibility now. My name officially removed. I felt lighter than I had in months. The family pressure didn't come back after that. I later heard, through the same cousin grapevine, that his grandmother had essentially shut it down. Apparently, when one aunt suggested I should apologize to restore peace, she'd snapped back. Peace built on lies isn't peace, it's just quieter abuse. I liked her. The workplace incidents had consequences too. HR followed up after the second garage incident. Security filed a formal report. His name, photo, and vehicle were added to a watch list. I didn't push for a restraining order. I didn't think Evan was dangerous. Just desperate, and desperation makes people stupid, not violent. But I made sure everything was documented. Paper trails matter. He sent one final message before I blocked him everywhere, this time through an email address I didn't even recognize. I hope you're happy. My family thinks I'm a liar. My friends don't know what to believe. You destroyed me. I read it twice. Then I wrote back the only thing that still mattered. I proposed 3 times. You said no 3 times. I protected you. I told the truth when I was cornered. What happened after that wasn't destruction. It was consequence. Please don't contact me again. I blocked that address too. That was the end of Evan Miller in my life. Not with a scream. Not with forgiveness. Just a door closing and staying shut. 3 weeks later, the noise was gone. No texts. No emails, no third-hand updates filtered through friends of friends. Just quiet. I moved into my new apartment on a gray Tuesday morning. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. No shared closets, no extra toothbrush in the cup, no ghosts of conversations that never quite landed. It wasn't fancy. The floors creaked. The kitchen was small, but it was mine. I stacked boxes slowly, deliberately, let myself feel the weight of everything I'd lost, and everything I'd refused to lose. Financially, it hurt. Between breaking the lease, moving costs, and the furniture I left behind, I was down about $4,800. That's not nothing. It would take a few months to rebuild the cushion I'd worked hard for. But do you know what didn't hurt? Waking up without wondering if today would finally be the day he was ready. Not bracing myself at family gatherings. Not rehearsing answers to questions that were never mine to answer. I started therapy. It felt like the responsible thing to do after detonating a 5-year relationship in public. I half expected the therapist to gently suggest compromise, empathy, understanding. Instead, after I told her everything, the proposals, the silence, the humiliation, she leaned back and said something that settled into my bones. You spent 5 years waiting for someone to choose you, she said, while they actively chose uncertainty. That's not patience, she added. That's self-abandonment. Self-abandonment. The word hit harder than any insult Evan had thrown at me. I'd abandoned myself every time I proposed again after a rejection. Every time I stayed quiet while his aunts questioned my commitment. Every time I made excuses for why he wasn't ready, instead of asking why I was okay being a perpetual maybe. I'm not angry at him anymore. Not really. He was afraid. He handled it badly. Fear explains a lot. But fear doesn't excuse 5 years of keeping someone in limbo. Fear doesn't excuse letting your family vilify the person who kept trying to commit to you. He made his choices. I finally made mine. His father reached out once more, just a short message. I know things ended badly. For what it's worth, I think you handled an impossible situation better than most would have. I'm sorry my family put you in that position. You're a good woman. You'll find someone who doesn't make you wait. I didn't respond, but I appreciated it. Some people in that family actually got it. That's how it ended. 5 years, 3 proposals, 1 very public exit, and finally, peace. If there's anything I learned from this, it's simple. Someone who wants to be with you will show you. Not through promises of someday, not through when I'm ready, but through actual commitment. If you're always the one asking and they're always the one postponing, that is your answer. Trust it. I wish I had sooner.